welcome to the first ever episode of Downton Gabby, the Downton Abbey chat show. I caved this season and I was like, I gotta talk about Downton Abbey. Now, this is not gonna be like our traditional recaps. As you can see, it's only me, no mom here. Also, it's not really a recap. I'm gonna be doing more commentary. So if you're looking for the episode and everything that happened, you should probably just look up the episode because I'm not going to cover everything that went on. I'm going to talk about a lot of it because it's hard not to. But if you want to know what happened completely, you should probably just watch the episode. Also, you probably shouldn't watch this if you haven't seen the episode because there will be tons and tons of spoilers. I have already seen all of season 4 because it aired in the UK already, so you know it's out there. But I am going to be doing these commentary videos in time with the episodes airing in America. So yay! And I want you guys to feel free to leave comments about what you thought of the episode, just anything really, because this is just pretty much for me to talk to you guys about the show because I just love the show so much and I can't stop talking about it. So, alright, season 4. Last season really ended with a bang with Matthew Crawley's horrific car accident. He died. It was really messed up. It ruined my Christmas. So, this episode is taking place 6 months after Matthew's death. So, it's not, we don't have to see the trauma that must have happened right after the death. Thank God, because I would have been a disaster. So this is 1922, and like I said, this is 6 months later, so there's still going to be mourning, of course, but it's not going to be as awful to watch as it would be if it was right after. I was wondering what they were going to do with that, so I think it was a good choice to set it a few months later. I do have to say though, it was kind of sad that the episode didn't start with the traditional intro. I really look forward to seeing Isis walk through the house every episode. It's not a big deal, but meh. Alright, so there have been a lot of articles online about how there's so many new characters this season and everything, but we're also saying goodbye to some. So this episode started off with the departure of Miss O'Brien. She was stolen away by Lady Flincher from the Christmas special. She's off to India, biatches. She doesn't care about you anymore. So we're really gonna miss her curls on top of her head. That was my favorite part about O'Brien. But it's kind of an awkward situation because Lady Flincher's daughter, Rose, is actually staying at Downton Abbey for like an extended period of time. So everyone's like, oh, did you know about this? Did you know about this? And they're also on Alfred because Alfred is related to O'Brien. And they're like, did you know about this? And they both say no. But then later on, Rose is like, yeah, I kind of knew, but I didn't think she would actually do it. So there's that. All that aside, one of the biggest storylines or just themes of the episode was like how Matthew's death was affecting everyone in the house because it had a huge effect on everyone. Obviously, Mary most of all, Miss Mary Mac, she's all dressed in black. I had to. But she's basically walking around like a ghost, and I don't blame her because that is really difficult to deal with. I can't even imagine it myself. So she's not doing so hot, and she called her son an orphan, and Anna was like, you're his mother, and you're still alive, so he's not an orphan. And she was like, bleh. Okay, I just have to say this. Matthew was a lawyer, but he didn't have a will. That is surprising. Like, I understand that obviously you don't expect to die young, but like if you're a lawyer and you're around all those documents all the time, wouldn't you be like, I should make a will just in case? Because like you know how important it is if you deal with it all the time. So like I don't know what kind of law he was in, but I feel like as a lawyer, probably make a will. So everyone was shocked about that. But that means that baby George now owns half the estate. And he gets like everything that belonged to Matthew. And Mary's just like, what? So, I mean, she is the baby's guardian, but I think she only gets like a third of his stuff or something. I take back what I said. A third of his stuff, I think it was. But it's messed up. So that creates a huge power struggle because now the question is Mary going to have a say in the running of the estate? Because technically baby George is half in charge, but like he can't do anything. He's all, eh. So Robert says no. He's like, you are not in this. So it's very, it kind of rubs me the wrong way how he's like dismissing her right off the bat. But he's definitely babying her at this point. He doesn't want her to think about anything other than like getting better. But that doesn't help. So it's affecting a lot of other people too, because Mr. Mosley is out of a job. He was Matthew's valet. Now he's like, I don't know what to do. He can't find work. And Isabel's a mess. She had a really good quote about how she had one child and he died, so she's not a mother anymore. But that's not really true, but still, it was very powerful. And Edith was like, you're a grandmother now. Okay, so moving on. Speaking of Lady Edith, she is partying it up with her boy toy in London. It looks like she's gonna have a wild season. She's hanging out with Virginia Woolf and like all these literary people because her boyfriend works in newspapers, I believe. He's an editor. But you know what? He's still married and he can't get a divorce in England. But he found out that he can get one in Germany, so he's all like, I'm going to Germany to get a divorce. Will you come with me at some point? And she's just like, what? I'm thinking, yeah, but we'll see. So that's pretty wild. Okay, one of the big showdowns this episode was between Thomas and the nanny. That is Nanny West, not Fran Drescher. So I think the show did a really good job of kind of showing what it was like to be a nanny, or really anyone who works with the children in a house like this, because you're not really a servant. You are an employee, but you're not a servant, and you're obviously not part of the family. So you're definitely in a little bit of a limbo, and you don't really have friends. You just have these babies who can't talk. So it's really awkward for the nanny. And I just have to say, it's really messed up how the parents like barely ever see their children. I'm glad it's not like that anymore. But anyway, they have a little tiff because, actually they have a lot of tiffs. The first thing that we see that sets Thomas off is that the nanny doesn't want him around the kids. She's like, don't touch them. Bleh. So he was all, Murr. And then she's trying to like give him orders, like sending messages to people, and he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not your servant. So she gets pissed about that, and Thomas goes and he tells on her. He tells Cora she's not a good person, and she's like, oh really? So she goes and she spies on her, and she actually catches the nanny being a jerk to Sybil and Tom's baby. So Thomas was actually right, and we just find out that the nanny's a crazy mofo. She doesn't like Sibby because she's like a half breed. I don't know, because Tom was a servant before, and now, you know. But it's kind of weird because the other baby is pretty much the same. I mean, not quite, but like Matthew had to work before, so he wasn't exactly upper class before this. But anyway, she's fired. It's done. So she's out. She had a short-lived appearance. So back to upstairs. Tom is trying to get Carson to help Mary because they're all part of the Widows Club. Well, Carson's not, but Tom and Mary are in there. It's sad, but it's true. So I love the relationship between Carson and Mary. It's definitely like a father-daughter kind of thing. So it's really sweet to see. But it was really heartbreaking to watch Mary snap at Carson when he's trying to give her advice. And she's like, oh, I think you're overstepping your bounds, or whatever. I'm sure she said, oh, whatever, too. But then she had a freak out at dinner, and she's not having a good time right now. But then, after that dinner, the Dowager went upstairs and gave her a pep talk, and I think it was a really powerful scene. And she was like, you can either choose life or death, so get it together and choose life. So I think that was definitely a turning point for Mary. And another story. This episode was jam-packed because it was like an extended episode, being the season premiere. So Mrs. Hughes is a garbage picker, and she's nosy because Carson gets this letter and it's obviously upsetting him. So she goes through the garbage and looks at it, and she sees that it's from one of his friends from his vaudeville days, which he's like super embarrassed about. And she sees that the friend is in trouble. Carson doesn't want to know him, but she goes behind his back and meets up with him. And she actually sets it up so that he can stay at Isabel's and get better. So this is a really good way for Isabel to get out of her funk. She has someone to help and look after, so it's good for her. But at the same, like, I'm happy that this is happening for this guy too, because like he needs help. But at the same time, Mrs. Hughes is like, she's a snooper, and she just does whatever she wants, which is kind of awesome. But anyway, downstairs, more stuff. The kitchen love triangle or rectangle or whatever it is killing me. I feel like this storyline is never ending. It does, but I feel like right now it's not. So Daisy is in love with Alfred, Alfred loves Ivy, and Ivy wants to be with Jimmy, and Jimmy just wants to be with himself. So it was even more complicated because it was Valentine's Day, and they were trying to figure out who sent Valentine's to who, and it turns out that Mrs. Patmore actually sent Daisy a Valentine's Day card because she figured she probably wasn't going to get one. So she's trying to make her feel better, and I just thought that was so sweet. But anyway, they're besties. The Dowager was also trying to be helpful in this episode. She was trying to help Mosley get some work because, like I said earlier, his master, I was going to say his owner, his master is no longer, so he's got to do something. So she's trying to introduce him to someone who potentially needs a new butler, and she wants him to show off his skills at this luncheon. But the Dowager's butler sees him as a threat and sabotages him. The lunch is a disaster. It's a funny scene, but at the same time, I feel so bad for Mosley. So that happened. And then more people looking for jobs. Cora is trying to find a new lady's maid. She ends up hiring Edna Braithwaite, who is the one that was trying to get with Tom and like made out with him or whatever last season. So Tom is like freaking out, understandably, but he has a little chat with Carson and Mrs. Hughes, and they're all like, you know what, we're gonna let her work here. She's gonna stay away from you. Don't encourage her. Whatever. So it looks like it's going to be a little bit of trouble in the future, but that's the end of that in this episode. So I think the best scenes of the episode were the last few. Lady Mary goes and apologizes to Carson. She's like crying in his arms, but it was awesome. Like, that's how it should be. Their relationship was mended, and he was just comforting her, and it was so nice to see, and I couldn't help but cry. But then, at the very end of the episode, Mary just, like, strolls into that tenant luncheon, and she's like, what's up? And she's not wearing black. Did you guys notice that? So she's kind of coming out of her, not really coming out of her mourning, but she's kind of, like, getting a little bit better, which is good to see. So next time, the whole should Mary have a say in the estate thing is going to come up, and I think it's resolved in the next episode. But, you know, there's a lot of drama between Mary and Robert. And, of course, drama with Braithwaite. It looks like the other servants don't really like her, or at least Anna doesn't. She knows. And Rose finally gets her time in the spotlight. She's gonna have some big storylines this season, and the beginning of it is next week. She's basically a flapper, and she's crazy. So tune in next week. I'm gonna be putting up these commentaries right after the episodes air, so definitely check it out. If you want to talk about it with me more, leave in the comments what you thought of the episode, and until next time, much love.
Edit.